Hey, it's me, VickiMarie. If you're there, let me know and then I'll say hi. I just want to thank Jackie who's joined. She's a new member. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Okay, so how are we all this evening? Oh my goodness, when I started getting ready for this live and there's a couple of things that I said I was going to talk about, and then when you go down the rabbit hole and it's like, oh my god, and that leads to that and that leads to another thing. So there's so much that I want to say tonight, and some of it I probably will end up doing again as well in separate videos. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed, everybody who's watched any of my videos, liked, become a member, sent me a super thanks, I think it's called, or bought me a coffee. And yeah, these are the different ways you can support my channel. Hi, Jennifer. Good evening. The most important way you support my channel is just exactly what you're doing now, by watching me, by giving me a thumbs up on the video, and subscribing if you feel like subscribing. Those are all free ways that you can help support my channel. If you want to go a little bit further, you can become a member, which is €1.99 a month. You can buy a super thanks, which I'm not sure of exactly what that is, but people have done it. So some of you obviously know what it is. There are super chats as well, or you can buy me a coffee. But as I say, most important way you help support my channel is just by watching, liking the videos and subscribing. And the other thing I want to talk about, just to begin, get it out of the way, is the book, my book, which is available on the Amazon sites, which just tells my story a little bit and how I came to be in Spain and why some of these cases, especially like Morel Sturrock, I'm going to talk about tonight, really strike a chord with me. And then my other life is teaching Spanish. And again, these books are available on Amazon. Break the Language Barrier, levels 1 to 5, if you want to learn Spanish. And they're Vicki Riley, Vicki with an I. Okay, so now I've got that out of the way and I've just covered up my list. Hang on, okay, that's the housekeeping out of the way. So, hi, Moaning Myrtle. Hi, how are you tonight? I'm going to start off with talking about Marelle Sturrock. It's like I say an update. It's not really an update. Bless. Morel was laid to rest today with her unborn son, Jaden, in Dundee Crematorium in Scotland. And Morel, unfortunately, was murdered by her partner, not her ex-partner, her actual partner and the father of her child. And he then went on to delete himself. It was a very, very sad, very tragic story. And she was quite heavily pregnant at the time. Anyway, she was laid to rest today. And some of you might know I did make a little tribute video for Morel, because she's got this, she was a teacher, but she was also a singer, a performer. She did so many things. Drama was her thing, acting, singing. And I found quite a lot of nice pictures on her professional website. Thank you, Myrtle. Thank you so much. Myrtle saying I look lovely. That's very kind. I don't think I do really, but it's very nice of you to say so. Anyway, I put together this little tribute video, which is on my channel. And the thing is, the music that's on it is actually her singing Over the Rainbow, because she had a fabulous voice. And I found the tape of it on her website, the recording of it on her website. Showing my age there, aren't I, calling it a tape? And I'm going to look at her website in a moment with you. And I put that as the song that went, on the tribute. And YouTube, it's so clever, YouTube. They just pick up things instantly. So I wasn't going to monetize it. because it was a tribute video, and then it sort of flashed back at me, you've got to monetize it because you've got to give half of what you earn on that video to the owner of the copyright for Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Hi, Maya. So apparently you're allowed to sing a cover of a song and put it on, but then you have to share, if it's, you know, if they pick up on the song that it is, you have to share the whatever monetized money you get from it, which won't be loads, to be honest, but I've got to give, so I can't not monetize it. I've got to monetize it and give half to the whoever owns the rights to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which I think is Sony Corporation. Yes, I've got my lippy on. You know, even in the house normally I've got my lippy on, and I think it's good for your lips because, you know, especially here in Spain, you know, when it gets hot and that, your lips dry out. So I think it's good to always wear something, even if it's just a lip gloss, you know. Anyway, so oh yeah, and a funny thing that is quite funny, in such a sort of tragic thing. When I did my because I did a silly tribute last night to Tina Turner, where I sort of sang one of her my favourite song, Private Dancer by Tina Turner, and they didn't even pick up on that. So that just shows you how good Marelle's voice is and how terrible my voice is, because they didn't even pick up that I was singing a Tina Turner song all the way through it. So anyway, let's have a look at Marelle's website, because it's very beautiful. Oh, you're getting warmer there now, Debbie? Oh, hang on, I'm supposed to, oh gosh, I always do this wrong. I just forget the way I'm supposed to do it. So I've got to do present, share screen. Oh no, first of all, I've got to, right, I want it like that. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Share screen. Right, let's see. Yeah. So if I go onto this lovely website of hers, which is still up, and this is where I got the photos from for, let me just make sure you're seeing it too. Go back there. Yes, you are. Good. Oh, it's nice when it works. Yeah, all the beautiful photos of her, modeling photos. There's a bio. Now I want to tell you something else that happened with this website. So when I went onto this website and looked at the photos, of course, they're all beautiful. And then you come to these two at the end. I really don't like this at all, because you've got like the photos of Morel in the various sort of acting and things she's done. And then the last two photos, so you've got a photo of her being scared and looking like she's crying. And then the final photo is of her and her partner, who actually murdered her and their child, and with against this sort of backdrop which looks like the reservoir where they ended up finding him, to me. And I thought, because right, so what I should explain to you is there's this, although obviously they're not looking for anyone else in connection with this case, it seems evident what happened, that it was him who did it, and then he deleted himself. Of course, it still is a murder investigation because they're trying to establish the facts of what happened. And what really upset me about this case, apart from the fact it resonated with me because of what had happened to me, was Morel was reported missing on the Monday morning, and the police didn't go round and go into her flat or house until the following day, the following morning. So they're trying, I presume that what they're trying to do is establish when the actual thing happened. But you know, she was there for a whole day. I mean, it just, I can't even think about it. It's just awful, just lying there. And they're also trying to establish, I mean, it's not clear, it's not been made clear that she was actually, that she wasn't just left to sort of bleed to death, you know. So it's horrible. And the husband, well, he's not a husband but a partner, he took the dog round to his mum's house or someone's house the night before on the Sunday night and said he had things to do the next day. So it seems like he was planning it. So anyway, when I looked at this, I thought, oh, you know, who, because they look incongruous when you look at the other pictures and then suddenly you've got the picture of her looking quite upset. It's not a recent picture. I've seen the date on it. It's from quite a while ago. So it wasn't a picture that was taken at that time. But it might have, but it looked like they'd just sort of been added on at the end, and then the picture of him. And anyway, I didn't like it. So I actually, I hummed and hawed over it for a long time. But in the end, I did actually contact, sorry, I don't know who Yvonne Michelle is. I did contact the murder investigation team, sent them an email and just pointed it out to them. And I said, oh, I don't know if it's just me looking into it too much, but that just seems to me, those two photos at the end don't seem a bit incongruous, you know, with the rest of it. Anyway, I had a very nice email back from the deputy chief superintendent, or I can't remember his exact title. I can probably get it up somewhere. But anyway, his name's Willie. And he sent me a very nice email back saying, thank you very much. And we've looked at it. We don't think there's any connection. Because my feeling was he in the house? Did he do it on the Sunday? And he was in the house overnight. And of course, I don't know all the details of the case, whether he left to know what he did. You know, that's what's going on at the moment with the inquest for Morel. But her cause of death has already been released. So quite a few details have been released from the inquest, but basically they're trying to establish the exact procession of events. So just a little aside that I wanted to tell you about. All right, a YouTuber tarot reader. Okay. Yeah, I don't believe in tarot cards, because I do believe in tarot cards, but I don't know about YouTube tarot cards. But I don't know. I've never watched her, so you know, I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know what the thumbnail. What was the thumbnail, Debbie, that she had? Anyway, so was it about this case, or was card reader? It looks like Nicola. Okay. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to tell you about that. So as far as the monetization was concerned, I don't know yet, obviously, how much money that is going to be. What I think I'm going to do, because so what I decided was, because what a family said was at a funeral, which was today, they only wanted family flowers, and they did anybody else who wanted to make some, you know, mark of respect to Morel should make a donation to a children's charity, which they said they'd have available at the crematorium. You know, the various the ones that they wanted supporting. So, you know, nothing's ever simple, is it? So I did phone the crematorium this morning. I spoke to a very nice lady. They're all very nice, but they gave me no information whatsoever. At the crematorium, she said they didn't know which children's charities would be. It'd be the funeral director that would know that. Gave me the number of a funeral director. So I then rang this funeral director who said, oh, no, we're not the funeral directors for Morel. But the name of their company was Sturrock and someone. So that's probably why the Dundee crematorium gave me that number. Said, oh, you'll have to ring the crematorium back and ask them again for the. And in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to look on the internet and look for a children's charity in the vicinity. Now, I don't know about you, but I never give to large charities. I just never do, because I don't like their systems. I don't think, you know, they've never changed anything, have they? You know, all the years that these big charities have been going, and they're just like their CEOs and everything, just earning loads and loads of money. And I don't want to pay their money. So I like to support local charities. I support a lot of local charities around where I am. They're mainly animal charities, I've got to admit. There's not really that many children's charities around here. Well, there are some of them. Sometimes I do donate to those, but it's different in the expat community here. It's mainly retired people, so there's not so many. But of course, the Spanish charities, there are quite a lot, and there's homeless charities, etc., which I like to support. I mean, you can't support all of them, but what I like to do is just give a little donation here and there and try and go round in circles, like, so everyone's getting a little bit, because at the end of the day, you can't, there's limits to what you can do, but you can always do something. Anyway, so I looked online, basically the upshot. Oh, of course, I've got to change it on here. I always forget I have to change it on here, because I'm going to show you. Oh, no, I think will it come up? Let me see. Yeah, I went online. Let me just check on my thing. Is that coming up? No. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I love charity shops as well, Jackie. There's some brilliant charity shops, isn't there? I mean, apart from the fact you're helping the local charities, but you're recycling the clothes as well, so it's good. Right. Why is that not coming up? Sorry, I've just got to work out how to do it. I want to show you, this is the charity that I'm going to donate the money to when the trouble is, I think probably what I'll end up doing is just making a donation, because I don't know how much, say in a week it's made €10 or whatever, and but then in another couple of weeks it might make 20. So I think the best bet is to just do a donation. So yeah, so this is the charity that I'm going to be donating to, which is Dundee Bairns. So I thought it was nice as well, because it's got the Scottish Bairns, and of course Morel was Scottish, and also it's very easy to make a donation on there. Donate cash instantly, and it comes up quite easy. Sometimes they're all very complicated on how to donate, but this seems quite easy. Now, well, it was easy, yeah. Donate. Anyway, it tells you here about the charity. So it's to feed children, because as we know now, with this horrible government that Britain's got, there's children starving all over the UK, never mind in other countries. And so it looks like this helps out children who in the school holidays, because a lot of children, they only get a proper meal when it comes to when they're at school, and then when it comes to the school holidays, etc., they don't get fed, a lot of them. So that's what this charity does. So it makes sure that children have always got food, and that's very important. So that's the charity that I'm going to donate to when I know that. Well, as I say, I think I might just do it anyway, and when I do, I'll let you know and show you the donation. Okay, now I think that's all I had to say about Morel. So poor Morel, a poor family. That she's been laid to rest today, and her unborn baby Jaden, and now it's just a question, I suppose, for them, hoping to get some answers from the inquest. But there's no real resolution, because he has taken himself to a world where nobody can touch him. And I hope he has left a note or something, just some sort, because I know from experience people cling on to those things. If that's the only, it might not seem like much, but it's better than nothing. A lot of things in life are that, aren't they? You might not have much, but it's better than nothing. You've always got to think positively about everything. So love and prayers to Morel's family, and I hope they manage to sort of get through this somehow. Okay, so that's Morel. I wanted to talk about and give you that little update on her. And and something else is, we're all obviously, we moan about the Met Police, and now we're moaning about the Lancashire Police and the Scottish Police. Now, Police Scotland, they're getting a lot of flack as a result of this. Not only this, there's been another case recently, which I did put on my community post, I think, of a guy who did the R word against a woman, then set her on fire and killed her. And because he was quite young, he only got 24 years. Apparently, they took his age into account, but he wasn't like 17. I mean, he was in his 20s. Just these, as long as these sentences are all wrong. But anyway. So there's a lot of apparently the Chief Commissioner of Scotland this morning, he actually admitted that there was a lot of misogyny, etc., in the Scottish police force. So I suppose it's a step in the right direction when they actually own up to it. But when are they going to change it? That's all I'd say. So one thing owning up to it's another thing actually making a difference. Okay, so that's about Morel. Now, what I want to talk about now is Philip Schofield. Well, now, I've lived in Spain a long time. I rarely watch the TV, to be honest. I do have British TV. I used, when I was young, oh my God, I was practically addicted to TV. And I think I sort of reacted against it as I got older and decided, why am I watching so much TV? But anyway, now I hardly ever watch it. And one thing I would certainly never watch was this morning with this morning, wasn't it? It was called, because I've just never liked Philip Schofield, and I don't know why. Isn't it funny how you get these feelings about people? And sometimes I feel quite guilty because I think, well, why don't I like them? Because there's no reason why, but I never have. And when he came out to be gay, I mean, I don't care if he's gay or not. I've got but it was just so staged and dramatic, and I don't know. I just didn't like it, and it just made it. I didn't like him before he came out. I didn't like him after he came out. He's just something, a feeling that I've always had about him. But anyway, it looks like it might have been a correct thing. I've learned to listen to my intuition over the years. Sometimes I do get feelings and I feel guilty and I think, oh God, I shouldn't think like that. But it's rare that I'm not proven right. But anyway, I shouldn't jump to conclusions, I suppose. But it's not looking very good, is it, for Philip Schofield or Holly, to be honest? Because I've always felt that Holly, to be honest, fake. There you go, Jackie. Jackie's always on the same wavelength as me. To me, Holly was false as well. It's difficult. The thing is, they're on TV every day. They're like known by, millions and millions of people. That's quite a lot of pressure, I would imagine. I mean, gosh, it's enough pressure sometimes just coming on here. For me, my son started calling me Maria Carey because he says I'm like a diva when I'm doing a live show, but I get nervous, so God knows how they feel. And I would imagine that never goes away, really. I mean, I suppose you sort of get used to it, but I'm sure before every show, they start to feel nervous. I don't know. I mean, it must be, and it must be quite strange to think all those millions of people, hanging on your every word and etc. So, but of course, that's the thing. You go into those things. You go into show business, if you like, and they want to be in front of the camera. That's the pinnacle of their career, isn't it? To get on Good Morning Britain, it's probably the most watched show, is it, in Britain? I don't know. So not Good Morning Britain, sorry. Good Morning, This Morning. But now all these things that are sort of coming out, because it's so, oh, thank you, Mia, a super sticker. Oh gosh, thank you so much. As I say, I don't even really know what they are, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like Jimmy Savile all over again, isn't it? But this time it's ITV. how do these people get so powerful that they can literally pull the strings? Is it because is it all about money because they, people like watching them? I mean, I know from comments that I've had on some of the things that I've posted. I haven't posted much about Philip, but just some people say, "Oh no, I love Philip." No, I think people are going to feel very betrayed if this comes out. It's like I felt like that about, not about Jimmy Savile really, but about Rolf Harris. Because when I was a kid, I loved Rolf Harris. And you feel sort of betrayed, really. It's almost like, oh my God, you spent all that time thinking he was great. And then it turns out what he's really like. It's like a betrayal that you feel. So I think a lot of people are going to feel betrayed about Phil. And then when I was sort of looking into it, I mean, I think I need to do a more in-depth video on this whole situation, obviously, but I will perhaps wait. I mean, gosh, you feel like you're always waiting for things these days. But in July, of course, the super injunction ends. So I wonder what's going to happen then in July. If he's the guy, is it McGreevy, the young guy he had a relationship with supposedly. But it looks like he was groomed from when he was maybe even 10 or 11 years old. Is it going, what's going to happen? It'd be interesting to see what happens then. And they reckon that, but again, this is all allegedly, as I'm sure you know, that was the reason that Philip came out. As I did think at the time, there must be, why would he come out after all that time? Why? So there must have been a reason, and this is what they're saying now, that's because this young lad was going to go and go to the papers, etc. But it'll come out one day. But it's like Jimmy Savile. Apparently in the 1970s, Johnny Rotten or John Linden, who was in the Sex Pistols, he exposed him, would it have been the 70s? It must have been the 80s, surely. Anyway, 70s or 80s. He, tried to pull the plug on Jimmy Savile and he was banned from radio. I think this is probably the sort of thing that happens when you get someone so powerful as that and you start to try and speak out against them. And then it's how far does this corruption go? How far, they talk about Jill Dando, if you know the case of Jill Dando, who was the Crime Watch investigator who was just assassinated really on her own doorstep. And, that case has never been solved. Sometimes some people say that she was getting too close to these rings of child lovers. I might have actually said the P word already, but I'm not supposed to say it on YouTube. But there's a few things about of course he showed his true colours when he skipped the queue to go and see the Queen, and people were up in arms, and they should have been as well, because it wasn't only him, it was Holly as well. Of course she blames it all on him now, but I mean, she didn't have to do it. She said, no, I'll stay in the queue with David Beckham, because I would have much rather have stayed in the queue with David Beckham than skip the queue with Phil, that's for sure. There was sort of that, and then it was the way they dealt with it afterwards. I thought it was so patronising, and like, oh, please, just like, I don't know. I think that was perhaps a step in the downfall as well, because you know what, people will accept a lot, but something like that's that mark of respect to the Queen, and I'm not even a royalist, and I felt protective, if you like, about the Queen, or respectful towards the Queen. That was a big mistake, wasn't it? Then of course there's his brother, who has just recently been jailed for grooming and having a relationship. Hi Lynn, don't worry about being late. Yeah, I'm Prince Andrew. Yes, you're right, Jackie. That's when it all started going wrong for them both. The thing is that all these things years ago, in Jimmy Savile's time, for example, I don't think Jimmy Savile now would maybe get away with so much, because of the social media world and YouTube and Twitter and all these things. There's bad things about those the social media world, but good things are people. These people that are in power that before wouldn't have even, apart from, waving their hand out of a carriage or appearing on a balcony, you never knew what they were doing or what they were getting up to at all. And they could get away with anything, really. Well, now they can't, because now they'll be held accountable for things that they do wrong, because somebody will know about it. And even if it's not on the mainstream media, it's all over Twitter or it's all over YouTube, and people get to know. And people voted with their remotes, didn't they? They all turned off from Good Morning. And that's the money side of things then that made ITV finally act. So they've probably known all these years about this relationship he had with this young lad. But it didn't matter, because they were getting the views, etc. As soon as the viewing started going down, so they don't care about people, they just care about the money and the views, the advertisers, etc. So that's quite telling, isn't it, for the society that we live in. See, and then there's this thing with Simon Schofield, this very good friend of his, and they think that he was involved in this grooming, and they were, and it sort of, it reminded me. I'm telling you, there are, like it or not, and it's not being homophobic or anything, but in all worlds, our king best friends with Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris. Rolf Harris painting the Queen. They're in these high circles, and there I know for a fact from a friend of mine he was more of an acquaintance really, but a guy that I knew who was gay. He told me, there are some, I suppose just the same as there's some heterosexual men who like young girls, there are gay men, they like young boys, they call them chickens. And that's where all these boys go when they leave home and they go off to be rent boys in King's Cross or whatever. Somebody's paying for those services. They don't go and do that because nobody wants those services. There's a demand there for them. They're young boys, and some men like that. So, chickens, that's what they're called. That's how they refer to them, as chickens. So, this is how it's starting to feel to me about this relationship between Simon Schofield and Philip Schofield grooming young boys. Because also, if they were in some sort of a partnership, the other thing, hey, Jackie, you made it for a live at last. This is another Jackie. Hiya. Hi, Jennifer. Oh, yeah, poor children. Yeah, the poor children. Because I remember this guy when he was telling me about these chickens, and my son was quite young at the time. And I remember it made me feel very defensive, because I just didn't like the way he was saying it. I'll tell you what, his actual words to me was, it's been a long time since I've had a chicken in my bed. And he was referring to a young boy. Now, he had a partner, but his partner was a lot younger than him, but he wasn't like, that young. He was sort of maybe 30, whereas this guy was in his 50s. So, and I just remember it made me think, oh my God, it's my son's, so I didn't really want to be around him, because you just don't know, do you? I mean, is he going to start grooming my son if he likes young boys, So anyway, that's a story from many years ago. He's not with us anymore. He actually passed away, but anyway. Oh yeah, and the other thing it reminded me of, because a lot of couples, they do bring in other people into their beds. They do, and it made me remember. Do you remember the Boyzone singer Stephen Gately, who was married to Andrew Cowles? They brought another guy home that night, that fateful night when poor Stephen, I think it was his heart, wasn't it? They discovered that he had a heart defect. But there was three of them. That's a common thing. You can beat around the bush as much as you want, but it happens. like it or not. You know, it does, and I'm sure there's many couples that don't do that, but there's a lot that do. Oh, Paul. No, I haven't done Nicola Bulley yet. No, I'm getting through Philip Schofield at the moment. Got Madeleine McCann to go, and then I'll be the news. The thing that I want to say about Nicola, it's not massive news or anything. It's just something that's interesting, I think, and I'm sure you will as well. So I think what I need to do with the Philip Schofield and Holly, of course, because did Holly know about? I mean, Holly must have known, mustn't she? Must have known. So you know, I think there's a lot going to come out. I won't be surprised if we don't see Holly back on the TV. And to be honest, I quite like Alison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary. I would watch that. I couldn't even, you know, I would if I would put the TV on to watch that. I just couldn't stand it. I would only watch it on a Friday when Alison and Dermot were on. Because I do sometimes watch like the British telly. I mean, I used to watch Good Morning Britain, but I quite liked Piers Morgan when he was on there. And then he just went, you know, he's sort of gone a bit off his head, hasn't he? But I used to quite like watching Piers Morgan and Susanna. But again, you know, just sometimes it appears he gets a bee in his bonnet about things and he won't give it up, will he? Hi, Chumba. You fell asleep on the couch. Hi, Shelley. So Shelley's watching from Canada. Hi, thank you so much for watching from Canada. Yeah, Mia, her children were around his brother. So Philip Schofield's brother, who's gone to prison. Well, I'm sure Holly didn't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you couldn't let your children be around them, could you? Yeah, she must have known about Philip, I think, and especially when the guy went to work on the actual show, and then when they argued and he was shipped off to Loose Women show. So yeah, I think there's a lot to come out there, I really do. So I will eventually do sort of a proper, you know, a video about it. But I just wanted to bring it up here and sort of, you do feel, you know, I'm sure there's people all across Britain now that watch that show and they will feel betrayed because they'll have grown up with Philip Schofield, like I grew up with Rolf Harris, and how it's a really sort of strange sense, because obviously you don't know them, but you feel like you know them. And when all that comes out, hi Joe H. Yeah, Alison Hammond, she's like down to earth, isn't she? I don't feel like she's bitchy or two-faced. Holly sometimes a bit too sugary sweet for me, that's all. And I don't feel like she's genuine, but I could be wrong. But I'm not normally wrong. But anyway, we'll see. So I wanted to talk now about Madeleine McCann. And yeah, this search that's just finished in Portugal. What do you think about that? Do you think anything's going to come of that? Do you think, apparently, well, some people have now, Jennifer, what you're saying there about Ian, that he was Fern Cotton, he was her boyfriend, wasn't he? He was her actual boyfriend, because I remember when he got arrested, and I suppose he's still in prison for actually doing the R word to a baby. I just thought, God, how would Fern Cotton feel now knowing that she actually went out with him? I mean, what horrible thing to find out. But anyway, let's go on to Madeleine. So yeah, so they've taken away some bags of things. They were looking in very specific points, weren't they? You know, you could see that they'd had, you know, a tip off, and they were looking in. I thought, well, how are they going to do all that in 2 days? But I think they had specific points that they were going to as a result of a tip off. They extended it 1 day because the weather was quite bad, I think, the first day or whatever. And I think I mentioned, you know, it was bad here in Spain, and I did wonder if they would have had the same sort of weather there. So it held the search up a little bit. When the New York Post was reporting, I don't know where they get their information from, probably from one of our newspapers. They were reporting that they'd found some pieces of fabric, a bra strap, and some plastic items, that they were actually looking for a gun and a camcorder. I've also heard that they took away some, or what they called, that you dongles, we call them here sometimes, things with information on that you plug in your computer, and the name's gone out of my head. So, that might be something significant for this Christian B, or whatever his name is, because he was in the area. Gosh, and as I've looked into it today, as I say, it just gets more and more. This is going to have to be a totally separate video as well. Why was he not investigated at the time, or was he investigated at the time and there was just no evidence? It's our USB sticks, that's it, Jackie. USB sticks that were taken away, apparently. I just couldn't get the name into my head then. Now, I presume he was investigated at the time. He was there. There's 3 other children that he suspected. I don't know if he was involved in the Madeleine McCann thing, but there are 3 other children. Well, one that went missing in Germany, and 2 others that went missing in Portugal that he may have had something to do with. So it's like, it makes, because in the time these children disappeared in the time that he was in Portugal. So I don't know. I've got to look into that and see, was he investigated at the time? What happened? I mean, is this guy some sort of serial killer? I mean, who knows? It's very interesting. So I want to tell you about these children. Now, I don't like doing cases on children because I find it very upsetting. But then, when I've looked through this and I thought, these poor little mites, they deserve to have attention brought to them. Because Madeleine McCann obviously is has always been talked about, etc. But I think probably these other children, probably a lot of people don't even know about them. And that, I don't like that. They should always be remembered. And they've not been found, these other children either. So they're missing children too. So, Joanna Cipriano, she disappeared at the age of 8 in Portugal in 2004. He was in Portugal at the time. And she disappeared from, I won't be able to pronounce this properly, Figueira, wherever that is, but apparently it's within sort of 25 miles of the Praia da Luz area. Now, when I started reading about this, it just did start to come back to me. So this was the guy, the Portuguese detective, Marelle, who, the McCanns stopped him publishing his book and everything, and who decided anyway, sorry, I've got to concentrate, because if I go off on the chat, I'll lose my track. So let me tell you about this poor girl, Joanna. So she, so what happened was her mother was arrested for the murder of Joanna, and her uncle. And what the police believed was that Joanna had gone to the shops to buy a bottle of milk or whatever, and she'd come back and found her mother in bed with her brother, and a fight, and the uncle, the mother's brother, killed her to stop her from telling anybody. This was the theory that was put forward. Now, the mother confessed to this crime in the end, but the next day she retracted her confession and said she had been beaten out of her, that she'd been tortured and beaten, whereas the police said she'd fallen down the stairs and trying to commit suicide. And there's some very graphic photos of her with big black eyes. I mean, something bad happened to her. Whether she was beat up by the police, I don't know, or whether she did actually throw herself down the stairs, I don't know. Now, she's actually out now. She was found guilty, but she's been released. She was released in 2019, but the uncle is still in prison, and he did confess to it, and he said he killed little Joanna, chopped her up and fed her to the pigs. So how nice is that? Lovely for your uncle to do that. But there's still this big thing. Did they really do it? Or did the police beat a confession out of them because they just decided that they had done it? And the police were sort of put on trial and found guilty, but they were put on trial, but they were acquitted. Now, Morel, he was convicted of trying to cover up. He wasn't involved in the torture of this woman or the alleged torture of this woman, but he was convicted for covering things up or changing documents or something like that. But then he went on to be the lead investigator in the McCann case. So, you just think, oh my God, sometimes these cases, when you look into them, you think it's like the Nicola Bulley case, really. The more you look into it, the more puzzling it is. You never get to the bottom of anything, do you? I mean, I just feel sorry for the coroner, to be honest, in the Nicola Bulley case. So, how's he going to unravel this? But anyway, he's got someone to help him, and that's what we're going to talk about shortly. So, and that was a significant murder conviction in Portugal because it was the first murder conviction ever in Portugal where no body had been found. So, because poor Joanna, to these days, has still not been found. So, Joe H., did you see those photos? I mean, her face, I mean, she's really been, I don't know if you could do that by falling down the stairs, but anyway, I don't know. I literally don't know. But it was significant because it was the first murder conviction in Portugal that had ever been made without an actual body. So there's one little girl, 8 years old, disappeared, never been found. Well, then we've got Madeleine, of course, as well. 3 years old, disappeared, never been found in the same area. It was in the time that Christian B was there. So it's possible, I suppose. I've always felt like the McCanns had something to do with it, accidental death and then covered it up. But do you know what? I'm open, if they can provide me with evidence of anything else, I will accept that. Anyway, 8 years later, let me go to that because that one was in Germany. I want to look at the other Portuguese case. Yeah, so this was a little boy, René Hasse. He was 6 years old, and one source I read said June the 18th, and the other one said June the 21st. So I don't know exactly which date, but it was in 1996. He disappeared in Algeciras in Portugal, which again is 25 miles from where Madeleine disappeared from. And again, I need to look in it more deeply. From what I could find, sort of at short notice, his mum was travelling in a camper van with some companions, it said. I don't know who the companions were, but it just seemed funny the way it said it. And they'd been out for something to eat. They were strolling towards the beach. René ran on ahead, as little boys and girls do, as children do. And then suddenly disappeared. And this was 30 kilometres, it says, from where Madeleine disappeared. No, because he ran on. And then when they caught up with him or tried to catch up with him, he disappeared. Just disappeared into thin air, right there on the beach or near the beach as they were strolling towards the beach. Now, it reminds me of something that did happen because, I live in Spain, and I remember when my son was little, I remember one time I was on the beach. He was maybe 3 years old. And I never went to this beach, not in the summer again, because when it's busy in the summer here, we've got lovely beaches here and it's great in the winter and that, nice and quiet, but I never go anywhere near the beach in July and August because it's just too many people, it's too hot. the traffic's it's all those things. But this was many years ago. Like, I haven't been here that long. That's what I do now. When I first came here, I was still, when you first come here, obviously you think, oh, the beach, and you want to go to the beach all the time. But after a while, the novelty does sort of wear off a bit. But we're on the beach. There was me, a friend, and my son. And I'm talking to my friend, as you do. Literally, I swear, literally 2 seconds, I've turned my head away to say something to my friend, and I've turned back. My son's disappeared completely. And I'm thinking, oh my God, where is he? And it's so busy on the beach, you just can't see, a little boy running around. And you start off like thinking, no, don't panic, you'll just be here. And then, of course, as time goes on, you start to really worry. And I was imagining all sorts. So I was thinking, oh my God, it's so easy. You start thinking it's so easy to do, really, on a crowded beach like that. Could be anyone. It could be some tourist. It could be a Spanish person. It could be, there's so many different people, all different nationalities. They've lured him off, got in the car, and they're gone. You never see him again. You wouldn't ever even know what had happened to him, because we didn't have CCTV then either. So, that he would never have been found. But anyway, and then as the time goes on, so 5 minutes go past, and it's like this rising panic. I'm walking up and down the beach trying to find him. And I think in the end, he was gone for maybe 20 minutes. So the worst 20 minutes of my, you can imagine, can't you, how these poor people do cope, whose children genuinely do go missing. And then you have to accept in the end that they're not coming back. It must be, I can't even imagine it. But next minute, I see him, he comes walking up the beach. A lifeguard was holding his hand. My son was crying like that. So he'd obviously run off thinking it was funny, and then he's got lost because there's so many people there. And luckily for me, there were no predators around to sort of notice that he was there on his own crying. And the lifeguard had taken his hand, and he said, the lifeguard said to me, I was just walking him up and down the beach looking for you, And of course, then I saw him, and that was it. So it was a happy ending. But it just made me think when I read this story about Rennie Hasse, gosh, imagine just disappearing like that. So that was in 1996. Now, bearing in mind that Christian B was in Portugal, in that area of Portugal, between 1995 and 2007. So Rennie Hasse was in 1996. That the first girl disappeared in 2004, so he was still there then, wasn't he? Because he was there till 2007, the one that they thought the mother and the uncle had done it to. Madeleine was in that period of disappearance, so that's within that thing. Then I think the reason why they've started suspecting Christian B was because of a little girl that went missing in Germany, and this is Inga Gerichte. And she was 5 years old, and she disappeared in 2015. Now, by this time, Christian B was back in Germany, and she disappeared from a forest in Stendal. And it was during a family picnic. She went off with the rest of the children, and then when they all came back, she wasn't there, and they didn't know where she was. And that was it. Both disappeared, never been seen again. Now, Christian B was investigated because he owned a derelict property nearby. But we have to say that in 2021, he was ruled out of being responsible for that crime. So again, nobody has ever been held responsible for the disappearance of Inga Gerichte or Rennie, the little boy that disappeared in Portugal. It's awful, isn't it, to think that people get away with things like that. Anyway, so he did have some convictions for crimes against children in 1994 and in 2016, and he did have images of children. I'm presuming this is what they think maybe are on these USB ports, or what the camera they were looking for. Will there be pictures of these children on there, or of Madeleine? Oh God, how awful. But anyway, still, it's awful in one way, but it'd be good in another way, because if it, you know, helps to get him put away for life, sort of thing. Yeah, Lynn, I do feel that the McCanns were involved. Might just be coincidence this with Christian B, but we'll see. We've got to wait for the evidence. We're always waiting for the evidence, aren't we? When is the evidence going to come out? Right, so that's it. So yeah, I'm going to look at that. We'll see what does come out. I've got some really exciting news, but I'm not telling you yet. I will tell you in 2 weeks. Okay, now we're going to look at Nicola Bulley now. A little look at this was just a thing that I've sort of seen, but I didn't really understand where it was, and one of my chatters sort of highlighted it to me, who's actually here in the chat tonight, Jackie. And this is about the Nicola Bulley case. It's quite interesting because when I've got to find it on my note, I've got that many notes for tonight. Which page is it on? That's that. Must be on the last page, because that was the order I was going to do it. Yeah. Now, the coroner, James Adley. I do like him. I've watched his series, you know, like the talk about sort of cases that he's been involved with, you know, coroner's cases he's been involved, which is Cause of Death, it's called. And you can get it on YouTube, but it's been on Channel 5. It's very interesting. And he is, of course, he is the guy who's in charge of the Nicola Bulley coroner's investigation. And after Nicola's body was identified, that's when everything went quiet, wasn't it? The body was identified by her dental records, by someone that James Adley had brought into, who was an expert in dental records. As soon as the body was identified, it was stumped. So the coroner, you know, literally put a media blackout on everyone. No one's allowed to talk. It's only us YouTubers that are allowed to even talk about it now. So the police can't talk about it. Peter Folding can't talk about it. The people that are invested, Jason Rothwell, can't talk about it. Anyone who's actually involved in any way in the Nicola Bulley case cannot talk about it until the inquest. Even the police, without the coroner's permission. If the coroner gives them permission to talk about it, then I suppose they can. So after she was identified, gosh, I don't know, I've got sniffy nose. It must be like hay fever or something. Adley said this, James Adley said this. He said that the remaining evidence required further evaluation, and a full inquest was likely to be held in June, once availability of a Home Office pathologist had been checked. So, a Home Office pathologist, that's quite significant. And then he went on to say, this will allow time to collate the facts of the case and allow the experts involved to finalise the findings from investigations that still need to be undertaken. Then he said, the inquest, oh no, he didn't say, sorry. So that was the opening day of the inquest. So literally what they did was they met only for 5 minutes. It was only attended by 6 members of the press. The family didn't attend. He literally opened the inquest and closed it and set the date then for June, once the availability of a Home Office pathologist had been checked. So then you think, well, what is a Home Office pathologist? You know, what is the significance? Is there any significance of a Home Office pathologist being involved? because everyone's saying, oh, it's a coroner's investigation, there's no foul play, blah, 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 blah. But if we look, so I'm going to go back on sharing the screen now, because I want to show you what it says on the UK government website about what a Home Office pathologist does, is used for, etc. Okay. Sorry, I'm sniffing. Okay, yeah. So this is literally the UK government website, and it tells us about forensic pathologists and what its role is within the Home Office. So one of these Home Office pathologists has been brought in to help James Aidley unravel the Nicola Bulley case. He said that himself. So I want to point out where it says, yeah, the PDB, which is what does that stand for? The Pathology Delivery Board, on behalf of the Home Secretary, recognises pathologists who have sufficient qualifications, training and experience to act on behalf of coroners and police in suspicious death and homicide cases. So it's not correct to think that there is no suspicion in Nicola. I've said it right from the beginning. When Nicola was found, the police classed her death as unexplained, passed her over into the hopefully capable hands of James Aidley, who's dealt with many puzzling cases. One of the most puzzling cases that he dealt with was the woman that he'd found strangled by getting a jumper caught in an oven, or sometimes deaths happen in really, the same. Most accidents happen in the home. So I expect there's been lots of very, very puzzling deaths that he's had to work out. Sometimes it's more straightforward, isn't it? I suppose as soon as they give someone a post-mortem, they see that they actually had a heart problem, or they've had an aneurysm, or something that they can find quite quickly. But when it's an unexplained death, a puzzling death, and now the actual pathology Home Office forensic pathologist has been brought in, who's brought in because of their training, qualifications, training and experience to act on behalf of coroners and police in suspicious death and homicide cases. So there you go. That is the actual government website saying that. That is the government UK that is telling us that. Now there's a list of these. See if I can find that. Yeah, there's a register. So these are this is the register of the approved pathologists. The register, Home Office Register of Forensic Pathologists. One of these people has been assigned to Nicola's inquest. Now, I would presume then they're from the area that Nicola of the coroner, which is of course Lancashire. So if we look at the Northwest Humberside and Yorkshire section here, you can see that the list of forensic pathologists that deal with those areas. And, there's 13 of them. So I've been trying to find out which one it is. I haven't been able to find out yet, but I'm still working on it, for trying to find out which one of those 13 people is the person who's actually dealing with Nicola's case. Now, I think, well, I could be completely wrong. So we've got Dr. Armour, Dr. Carter, Dr. Hope, Dr. Jenkins, Dr. Johnson, another Dr. Johnson, Dr. Lunn, Dr. Lyle, Dr. Medcalf, Dr. Parsons, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Rogers and Dr. Wilson. I think it may be this Dr. Jenkins, who is the fourth one along, Dr. M. Jenkins, for the only reason is in the notes below, it says Dr. Jenkins joined the register on the 17th of May, 2023. And that makes me, because James Aidley had said, we're setting the inquest for the 26th of June. This will allow time to collate the facts. Oh, sorry. And when availability of a Home Office pathologist has been checked. I don't know. I just have. I know. Again, I'm going on a feeling here, so please don't think that I know for certain there is Dr. Jenkins. Just a feeling that I have that it might be this Dr. Jenkins, but hopefully I'll be able to find out for sure. Anyway, whoever it is out of those, I'm sure they're very capable people. We just have to hope that they are, but I'm sure they are. I do feel quite sort of. I'm just coming back into. Turn that off now. I do feel confident that. I do feel confident that James Aidley is a capable coroner. I do. And watching him, I enjoyed watching him on that cause of death, and it made me feel that. Oh, what's that? Joe H. Breaking news. So, apparently Philip Schofield has stepped down from ITV. Gosh. Well, it's not a surprise, really, is it? It's not a surprise, and he had to, didn't he? But I don't. It's not the end of it. I worry about him in a way. I mean, I know, what he's done. I just, where's he going to go from here? And think of his family. Look at his mom. His brother's gone to prison for loving children. He's now got all this going on. It must be awful for his mum and his wife, of course. All right. Okay. No, Joe, don't worry about going off track, because we were talking about Philip earlier. I mean, they could have been more considerate and it could have come out when we were actually talking about Philip. But yeah. So he admits. So Philip Schofield, breaking news. He admits to lying and having an affair with a much younger male. Sorry, Vicky, for going off track. This is what Joe was saying. Yeah, and Jackie, I agree. Let's hope that whoever the pathologist is does a really thorough investigation. I'm sure they will. I really do feel, I don't know, I have a confidence in James Aidley, but okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I've missed any of you. I may have missed some of your comments. I'm sorry if I have, but because I was into that, talking about the forensic pathologist. So there you go. So right while we were on live stream, there it's happening. Let me have a look on the. I'm going to have a little look on Sky on my phone on Sky News. That's my phone. The battery's going, as always. You ever notice that whenever you want to use your phone, the battery's going, and when you don't need to use it, you've got loads of battery. Okay, let's see. Oh, of course, I could go on here, couldn't I? How thick am I? Sorry. So let's put it up on here. Let's have a look on here. Oh, there you go. Right, I'm going to share that. Okay. Right, this should come up now. Let's have a look. Schofield admits affair with much younger man and steps down from ITV. so much more going to come out there, isn't there? I think really is going to be much more coming out. I do worry about him a little bit because he's one of the most famous men in Britain. After they said he was staying, I think it was in Devon with his mum. But you know, he won't even be able to walk to the shops, will he, without people knowing who he is and saying things to him, what have you. So, you know, that's just wondering what are you chewing? Just walk. You know, when you hear your dog chewing something, you think, oh my God, what is it? But yeah, so what do we all think? I mean, I don't think there's anyone really thinks he's got nothing to worry about, is there? I mean, surely, but yeah. Oh, why do I feel? I think the reason I feel a little bit sorry for him, because you know how the press can hound people into doing. I mean, look at gosh, what's her name? The girl from the X Factor, and that. I mean, you know, the press can hound you about things, and you know, people do think. I hope, you know. So I wouldn't want, as much as I don't like him, and I've never liked him, and whatever he's done or not done is awful. But I wouldn't like to think anything terrible would happen to him either, in that way, you know, that he would do something to himself. That's all I'm thinking. But okay, so there you go. Gosh, there you go. We even had some breaking news in the middle of our stream tonight. So, but listen, I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for being here. Again, I'll be back if there's any other news. I'm gonna put together a video. The trouble is, when something like this with the Philip Schofield thing, I'd like to do a video on it. I'd like to, but because it's all coming out, and it's difficult to do a video on it, because just like now, I've just been talking about it now. What do you think will happen? You know, one minute people are saying, well, will he do the next awards or whatever, and now he's left altogether. You know, things change when stories are coming out. Things change so quickly. Sometimes you're better waiting till the dust settles a little bit, and you get a bit more you get the information a bit more clearly, you know, instead of commenting on things and then next minute, so actually it's all different now. Because I tell you now, he's stepping down from ITV. And the daggers are already out for him. So, you know, what's really annoying me a bit as well about other people that work with him, you know, they're coming out now and saying, oh, yeah, he was this and he was that, and Holly's this and Holly's that. And maybe they are, but why didn't you say something at the time? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no point. People are going to come out now and say, oh, yes, I knew Philip Schofield was a child lover. You know, I knew that 10 years ago. Well, why didn't you say something 10 years ago then? Or is it just that he had so much power that people were frightened to? But really, if they put their career before protecting children, that's not very good either, is it? So, hang on, I'm missing comments here as usual. Yeah. Is that Lynn who's just said that, or am I going to miss that? Yeah, Lynn has said, yeah, he's not going to go on TV and say he's had an affair with a minor. He's just not going to say that, because he'd just be instantly arrested, wouldn't he? So he's gone on there and said he's had a relationship with a much younger male. He's going to try and make out that they didn't have a relationship until the guy was, whatever the legal age is it 16 or 18? 16, I think, is it? What, anybody in chat know what the legal age is? I would imagine it's 16. I don't think he's going in. Charlie says she was suspicious of Gordon the gopher. I don't think, is it 16 or 18? Anybody know? Anybody know in chat what the actual age of 18? Okay, yeah. Yeah. So because he's just not going to turn around and say, oh yeah, because he's just going to get a massive sentence then. Even his brother didn't admit to that, did he? Although he admitted to, sitting and watching porn or doing various things with that young lad, he never admitted to actually having a physical relationship with him, because he's now one of you saying 18 and then Silver Moon Warrior is saying 16. So I don't know. 18 in Canada, but I don't think that helps. Yeah, gosh, we need to know, don't we? I don't know. How awful not to know. Has it got? It must be 18, because Prince Andrew, that girl that Prince Andrew had allegedly, probably definitely, wasn't it? 16 is for normal, but for men it's 18. Ah, right, okay. Oh gosh, no, we've got a real. Let's see. Thank God for Google. Gosh, my battery's going on both. I've got two phones and my battery's going on both of them. Can you believe it? See if it will on UK. 16, according to Google. So yeah, whoever said it was 16, you were right. Yeah, 16. So yes, because but he knew this boy from when he was 10. Him and his friend Simon Schofield, no relation but the same surname. That's quite a coincidence, isn't it? But and what's going on if this does end up being true, which it feels like it is that like a genetic? So that's him and his brother not only both being gay, but both being child lovers. My God, his mum must feel like she won the lottery or something, like not, because he not only, you wouldn't care if your son was homosexual, of course not. In fact, it's quite nice because they all treat the mums really nice, don't they? But, to know that one of your sons is in prison for loving children, and now your other one as well. Hi, Desi. Oh yeah, I'm nearly finished now, but yeah, it's all right, Jackie. Don't worry. God, I didn't know either. I had no clue. I knew it wasn't 21 anymore. It used to be 21, of course. Well, it used to be illegal, of course, and then they said it as long as you were 21. But I wasn't sure if it was 18 or 16. I just didn't know. But okay, right. Oof. All interesting stuff, isn't it? We could talk about it all night. So I'll let you know if there's any updates with Madeleine and, of course, with Nicola's case, etc. I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it, I do think the silence in this case is saying something, if that makes sense. Why is there absolutely no information whatsoever? There's too much not information, if you see what I mean. If you were getting at least little bits and pieces, then that's that's what normally happens with inquests. Even if they go on for a long time, you get sort of bits come out when the things come out, like the cause of death or some of the circumstances. They do come out, but for nothing, for this deafening silence from everyone, except us, that we can talk about it on YouTube. It's not right. I don't think so. There's something. May end up being an open verdict, may end up being adjourned again. I mean, that's another thing that might happen. It could be adjourned again for more information, or because we just don't know, do we, what's going on behind the scenes? We have no idea, basically. Could be all sorts going on behind the scenes, or there could be nothing going on behind the scenes. It's very frustrating not knowing, and that's us, and mind the family and everything. maybe a family know a little bit more. Maybe they have been given some bits and pieces of information, but yeah, it's you know, I don't think the Lancashire police are corrupt personally, but I do think they totally messed up right from the beginning. I think that's what happened. But I do think they were gaslit, so that's why they messed up, because they just, as police forces often do, they just take the word. And it's difficult, isn't it? You can't suspect everyone. If someone comes and says to you, oh, my wife's disappeared, you can't automatically think, oh, well, you murdered her. You know, you've got to sort of, you know, take people at face value, but it just happens so often. And there's still no update on the Madeleine Kingsbury case in America, over in America, in Minnesota. That, you know, there's still no trace of her, and her husband's trying to get custody of their children. So the children are with her parents at the moment, because he is like the prime suspect, but they haven't actually named him as a suspect, because I think they're wary of the police. They want gathering the evidence. All comes down to the evidence. But yeah, Madeleine Kingsbury, that's another one. Just wait. You just think, please don't let it just be no news ever, and she just disappears and is never found. One day I'd like to cover the case of I can't remember the surname. What's the surname? Powells, the Powells. I don't know if you know that case. It's in America. It's quite a long time ago now, and it'll never be solved because nobody is still alive from it. But I'd like to cover that, and that's running along these lines. Anyway, we'll look at that. I can't cover the JFK murder because it's just too confusing, and no, I don't think we'll ever have a proper answer for that. So, Lynn Anderson, yes, I think Peter Falding will be called as a witness, I would imagine, because the coroner will call witnesses to speak at the inquest, depending on what the findings are and what he needs to do. That was my experience at the inquest for my ex-partner. I was called as a witness, and you know, even though that was a clear-cut deletion, at the end of the day, still had to be an inquest. Witnesses had to be called, people had to be interviewed, and it had to be, and they'd left notes as well, but it still had to be ascertained in the coroner's court. It couldn't just be, you know, oh yeah, that's that, you know. So I think he probably will be called. Okay, right. I've got to go because I've not had my dinner yet, so I'm going to go and get something to eat. And we're an hour ahead here in Spain, so it's actually 8:20 now, so I'm getting a little bit peckish. But I will see you on Sunday in the live. I decided what I'm doing in the lives. Normally I do like a serial killer Sunday, but if there's anything else that you would like me to look at, I mean, I know people always want to know about Nicola Bulley, but we have to wait till there's any news. Though I have been going over and doing these sort of back to basics and looking over some things, because some people, I hadn't even thought that. I always just assume everybody will know about the case, but I've got quite a few new subscribers from other countries, especially, who are just coming into this case, and so they don't know all the details from the beginning. So, okay. Oh, thank you all. I wonder if Ron will be called. Yeah. Oh, poor Ron. I feel sorry for Ron. I think he's just a bit of a dodderer, and like people are practically accusing him of murder. I don't think. But anyway, look, I'll start waffling on, and that bit I'll be waffling on all night. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, everyone, for being here with me. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you really soon. Remember to always live and love very carefully. And until I see you again, may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Did I end it? I don't think I did. Yes.